The crystal wine glasses clinked as Earl raised his for yet another toast. "To success," he beamed, while his mother Helen nodded approvingly from across my meticulously set dining table. I smiled mechanically, the muscles in my face aching from hours of forced pleasantries. "My name is Elise, and tonight is the last time I'll play the role of the perfect corporate wife. And to my beautiful wife," Earl continued, his words slightly slurred, "who just plays with her little computer all day while I bring home the real bacon." Laughter rippled around the table. I caught Helen's smirk as she dabbed her mouth with a cloth napkin I'd had custom embroidered for the occasion. "Well, dear," Helen chimed in, adjusting her signature gold watch, "at least you keep yourself presentable. That counts for something when you're representing the Mills family name." I took a long sip of wine, letting the $200 Cabernet coat my tongue. The same Cabernet I'd purchased with my own money, along with the Wagyu beef, imported cheese platter, and hand-picked flowers that decorated the space. The catering alone cost more than Earl's monthly salary. My phone buzzed quietly in my lap. A payment notification. Client invoice cleared, $127,500. I almost laughed out loud. Instead, I watched Earl regale his family with another story about his latest executive decision at the pharmaceutical company. The same story he'd told at the last 3 gatherings, each time adding another zero to the supposed savings he'd generated. "Elise, honey," Earl's sister-in-law Janet called out, "could you get us some more of that lovely dessert wine?" I stood gracefully, padding to the kitchen in my Louboutins, another purchase from my latest project completion bonus. The kitchen island was spotless, gleaming under recessed lighting I'd had installed last spring. From here, I could hear Earl clearly. "Sometimes I worry about her, you know." His voice carried that false concern he'd perfected. "All day on that computer, making her little logos. Thank God I can support us properly." "You're too good to her," Helen agreed. "A woman needs structure, purpose. Maybe if you'd had children." I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app again. With a few taps, I initiated the transfer we prepared weeks ago. My business manager Remy had everything lined up perfectly. Returning with the wine, I caught Earl's younger brother Jerome studying me with unusual intensity. He'd always been the perceptive one. Too bad he'd have to go down with the rest of them. "A toast," I announced, surprising everyone by speaking up. "To family." I raised my glass, meeting Helen's suspicious gaze. "And to karma." Earl laughed nervously. "Honey, you're not usually so philosophical." "Oh, I've been thinking a lot lately." I smiled, genuine for the first time that evening. "About choices, consequences, the future." Helen's eyes narrowed. "Are you feeling quite well, dear?" "Never better." I poured more wine for everyone, my hands steady. "In fact, I've never felt more clear about anything in my life." My phone buzzed again. Another notification. Transfer complete. Everything was in place. "Speaking of clarity," Earl announced, loosening his tie, "I have some exciting news. The company's considering me for Director of Operations." I knew this was coming. He always saved his biggest lies for family gatherings. "That's wonderful, darling." I touched his arm lightly. "When did they tell you?" "Just yesterday. Top secret, of course." He winked at his mother. "Fascinating." I took another sip. "Especially since I had lunch with Violet from your HR department last week. She mentioned they'd already filled that position internally." The room went silent. Earl's face twitched. "You had lunch with Violet?" "Oh, yes." I smiled serenely. We had quite an interesting conversation, about many things. Earl's hand trembled slightly as he reached for his wine. Helen was staring daggers at me, but I didn't care anymore. By tomorrow morning, none of this would matter. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of forced laughter and pointed comments. As the last guest left, Earl cornered me in the kitchen. "What the hell was that about Violet?" he hissed. "Just making conversation, dear." I started loading the dishwasher. "You should get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be eventful." He stumbled slightly, the wine making him unsteady. "You're acting weird." "Am I?" I closed the dishwasher with a soft click. "I'm just being myself." Finally. As Earl made his way upstairs, I stood in our pristine kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of my last performance as Mrs. Mills. My phone lit up with a message from Remy. "Everything's ready." I smiled at the empty room. By sunrise, Earl would learn exactly what his wife, who just plays on her computer, was capable of. And it would be absolutely glorious. I was already settled into my new penthouse when Earl's first call came at 7:23 a.m. I watched his name flash across my phone screen while sipping coffee on my balcony, enjoying the morning sun and the view of the city below. The voicemail notification pinged moments later. "Elise, where are you? What the hell is going on? Call me back immediately." 6 more calls followed in rapid succession. I forwarded them all to Remy, who'd handle the legal documentation of harassment when needed. Right now, Earl would be discovering several things. His wife gone, closets emptied, and most importantly, their joint account drained. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Maya. "Holy shit, sis," she said when I answered. "Helen just called me in a complete meltdown. What did you do?" "What I should have done years ago." I walked inside to pour more coffee. "How bad is the explosion?" "Earl's apparently threatening to call the police. Helen's convinced you've had some kind of breakdown. She kept saying something about family reputation." I laughed. "Let them call whoever they want. Everything I did was completely legal." "Wait, what exactly did you do?" The doorbell rang. "That's probably Remy with the paperwork. Want to come over and see for yourself?" 20 minutes later, Maya sat slack-jawed on my new sofa while Remy laid out documents across my coffee table. "Jesus Christ," Maya whispered, scanning the papers. "You've been planning this for months. Years, actually." I signed where Remy pointed. Every time Earl made a joke about my little computer games, I transferred another chunk to my private account. Every time Helen mentioned my wasted potential, I documented another asset. Remy, ever professional in her crisp blazer, pulled out another folder. "There's something else you should see, Elise. We found some irregular withdrawals from your joint account." She spread out bank statements. Large cash withdrawals, all made by Earl, dating back 6 months. "That's a lot of money," Maya said quietly. 50,000 total, Remy confirmed, all withdrawn in chunks just under 10,000 to avoid reporting requirements. My phone rang again. Helen this time. I declined the call. "You know she'll show up eventually," Maya warned. "Let her. Security has strict instructions." I turned to Remy. "What else did you find?" Remy pulled up something on her tablet. "Hotel charges on his corporate card. Always the same place, same day of the week. And look who signed the restaurant receipts." I leaned in. The signature was clear. Violet. "That little shit," Maya breathed. "The same Violet you mentioned at dinner. HR Violet." I sat back, pieces clicking into place. Who's been handling all those special projects Earl kept bragging about? Another call, this time from Jerome. I actually considered answering this one. "Jerome might be useful," Remy suggested, reading my mind. "He's always been jealous of Earl's position, and he has connections in their finance department," I answered. "Jerome, what a surprise." "Elise, what the fuck? Earl's losing his mind. He says you cleaned out the accounts." "Only what was legally mine. My business earnings, my inheritances. You know, the money from my little computer games." A pause. "Listen, there might be some things you should know about Earl's department. Like the unauthorized withdrawals? Or the hotel meetings with Violet?" Another longer pause. "How much do you know?" "Enough to start, but I bet you know more." I could practically hear him thinking. Jerome had always resented playing second fiddle to his older brother. "Meet me for coffee?" he suggested. "Text me the details." I hung up and turned to Maya and Remy. "Ladies, I believe we're about to get some ammunition." Maya shook her head. "I can't believe you're actually doing this. Taking him down." "Not just him." I walked to the window, watching the city buzz below. The whole facade, the perfect son, the successful executive, the Mills family image, all of it. My phone chimed with a text from Jerome. "Noon, Capital Coffee, come alone?" "You're really going to trust Jerome?" Maya asked. "Trust? No." I smiled. "But I'm going to use him, just like Earl used me all these years." Remy gathered her papers. I'll have everything filed by this afternoon. You're officially protected." After they left, I stood in my new space. My space paid for with my money, decorated to my taste. No more beige walls and family portraits. No more pretending to be less than I am. My phone buzzed one more time. Earl had finally found the note I'd left on his pillow. "Dear Earl, by the time you read this, everything will have changed. You always said I just played on my computer all day. Time to show you what I was really doing. Enjoy the chaos. Elise." I blocked his number and opened my laptop. Time to see what Jerome knew about his brother's secrets. Capital Coffee buzzed with lunch rush energy when Jerome slid into the seat across from me. His usual cocky demeanour was replaced by something more calculating. "You look good," he said, studying my face. "Better than good, actually. You're glowing." "Freedom does that." I pushed a coffee toward him. "Let's skip the small talk. What do you know?" Jerome glanced around before leaning in. "Earl's been running a scheme through the contracts department. Those special projects he keeps bragging about? They're fake. Well, mostly fake. Go on." "He's been approving inflated contracts, then getting kickbacks from the vendors. But here's the interesting part. All the paperwork goes through Violet's desk." I took a sip of my latte. "The same Violet who signs his hotel receipts?" "Oh, it gets better." Jerome pulled out his phone, scrolling through documents. "Violet's sister Maureen. She's a liability lawyer who specializes in corporate settlements. Every time one of these vendors gets caught doing something shady, guess who handles the quiet payouts? And takes a generous fee, I'm sure." "Exactly. The whole thing's like a legal money laundering operation. Earl approves bloated contracts, vendors kick back cash, problems get buried in settlements, and everyone gets paid." I forwarded Jerome's documents to Remy while he talked. "How long have you known about this?" "Few months. Been gathering evidence." He smirked. "Thought it might come in handy someday." "And now?" "Now I'm thinking we could help each other." Jerome leaned back. "You want revenge? I want his position. Win-win." My phone buzzed. Helen again. This time she'd left a voicemail. "Elise, this childish behaviour stops now. You're embarrassing the family. Fix this mess or I'll be forced to take action. Remember who you're dealing with." I played it for Jerome, watching his face darken. "Mum's always covered for him," he muttered. "Ever since we were kids. Earl could do no wrong." "Not anymore." I stood up. "Send everything you have to this email. And Jerome, don't warn him." "What are you going to do?" "Watch the fireworks." I gathered my things. "Oh, and you might want to distance yourself from the contracts department. Things are about to get messy." Back at my penthouse, Remy was waiting with Maya. "You're not going to believe this," Maya said, practically bouncing. "Tell her, Remy." Remy pulled up an email chain on her laptop. "Remember those hotel meetings? They weren't just about the affair. Violet was meeting with vendors there too. We found receipts for 3-person dinners, all charged to Earl's corporate card." "The idiot left a paper trail," I mused. "A massive one." Remy turned the screen. "And I just got an anonymous tip about when the next meeting is scheduled." Maya grinned. "Tonight. Same hotel. Perfect timing." I opened my own laptop, because I'd just finished composing an email to the company's board of directors, complete with Jerome's evidence and some interesting photos from the hotel's security cameras. "You're really doing this," Maya whispered. "You're actually taking him down." "Not just him," I hit send. "The whole corrupt system." My phone rang. Earl's office number this time. I put it on speaker. "Elise?" His voice was tight with panic. "We need to talk. Now." "About what, Earl? The fake contracts? The kickbacks? Or your little hotel meetings with Violet?" Silence. How did you—" "I told you I wasn't just playing on my computer all day." I kept my voice steady. "Check your email. The board should be contacting you shortly about an emergency meeting." "You can't do this to me." His voice cracked. "My career, my reputation, should have thought about that before you made me invisible." I ended the call. Maya hugged me tight. "Holy shit, sis. You're my hero." "Don't celebrate yet." Remy was checking her phone. "Helen's on her way up. Security just called." I walked to the window, watching Helen's Mercedes pull into the visitor parking. Even from 15 floors up, I could see her rigid posture, her signature gold watch glinting in the sun. Let her come. I turned to Maya and Remy. Time to show the Mills family matriarch exactly who she's dealing with. The elevator dinged. Helen's heels clicked down the hallway, getting closer. Want us to stay? Maya asked. No. This needs to be between me and her. I straightened my shoulders. Besides, I have one more card to play. A sharp knock at the door. 3 quick raps, imperious and demanding. I opened it to find Helen, face flushed with anger, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. You ungrateful little... she started. Come in, Helen. I smiled, stepping aside. We have so much to discuss, starting with what Earl's been doing with your family's investment money. Her face went pale. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing secrets, it's revealing them to exactly the right person at exactly the right time. Helen stood in my living room, her composure cracking as I laid out the documents one by one on my coffee table. These are fake, she snapped, but her hands trembled as she picked up a bank statement. Earl would never... Here's the withdrawal records. I pointed at the highlighted lines, and here's where that money went, straight into an account controlled by Violet's sister Maureen. The lawyer? Helen sank onto my sofa. But she handles our family trust. Exactly. She's been managing more than just legal settlements. I pulled up the email trail Jerome had sent. Every time Earl approved an inflated contract, the excess went through Maureen's accounts, including the money from your family's investment portfolio. Helen's face went from pale to ashen. How much? At least 2 million, maybe more. The gold watch on her wrist caught the light as she pressed her hand to her mouth. I trusted him with everything. After his father died, my phone buzzed. A text from Remy. Board meeting in progress. Earl's been called in. Would you like a drink? I offered, watching Helen's perfectly maintained facade crumble. Scotch, neat. She looked around my penthouse. How long have you known? About the money? Recently? About Earl's true nature? I handed her a crystal glass. Years. Every time you belittled my work, every time he dismissed my success, I was watching, learning, gathering evidence. Why now? Because of Violet. I sat across from her. She got sloppy, started leaving trails, hotel receipts, meeting notes, explicit emails about their arrangement. Helen drained her glass. The little tramp from HR? Who's now singing like a bird to save herself. I showed her my phone. A new email from Remy. The board just suspended Earl pending investigation. Violet's already given a statement. I'll fix this. Helen stood up, swaying slightly. I'll call in favours. Handle the board. No, you won't. I pulled out one final document. Because if you do, this goes public. She squinted at the paper. What is this? Proof that you knew about the fake contract 6 months ago? That voicemail you left Earl? The one warning him to be more careful with the paperwork? I have it. All of it. Helen's legs gave out. She collapsed back onto the sofa. What do you want? Nothing. I gathered the documents. I want you to do absolutely nothing. Let Earl face the consequences. Let the board do their investigation, or everything comes out, including your role in the cover-up. My phone buzzed again. A message from Jerome. Holy shit. Earl just got escorted out. Security has his laptop. Helen's phone started ringing. Earl's face flashed on the screen. Don't answer it, I warned. He's my son. He's a fraud who stole from his own family. She let the call go to voicemail, her hands shaking. You've destroyed everything. No, Helen. Earl did that himself. I just exposed the truth. Another text from Remy. Violet's lawyer called. She wants to make a deal. You should go home now, I told Helen. Earl will need somewhere to stay after the bank freezes his accounts. You really think this through, didn't you? She stood, straightening her designer suit. All these years we thought you were just playing on my computer? I smiled. Amazing what people can accomplish when you underestimate them. At the door, Helen turned back. The family money, can it be recovered? Most of it. Remy's already tracking the transfers. I met her eyes. Consider this a wake-up call, Helen. Your perfect son isn't who you thought he was. After she left, I poured myself a scotch and called Maya. "How'd it go?" she asked. "Better than expected. Helen's broken, Earl's suspended, and Violet's looking to deal." "Damn, sis," Maya whistled. "Remind me never to cross you." "It's not over yet." I walked to my window, watching Helen's Mercedes pull away. Violet knows things. Bigger things. That's why she's desperate to talk. "What kind of things?" My laptop pinged with a new email. From Violet, sent to my private address. "I'm about to find out." I opened the attachment. Holy shit! What? What is it? I stared at the screen, at the evidence of something far darker than corporate fraud. "Maya, I need you to come over, now, and bring Remy." "That bad?" "Worse." I forwarded the email to Remy. "Looks like Earl wasn't just stealing money. He was hiding something much more dangerous." I ended the call and looked at the documents again. Earl's scheme went beyond kickbacks and affairs. He'd been burying something toxic, literally, and Violet had proof. The game had just changed completely. Violet's hands shook as she spread the photos across my dining table. Maya and Remy leaned in, examining each one. "These were taken at the company's research facility," Violet explained. "Earl's department was supposed to be disposing of failed trial medications properly, but instead, they were dumping them," Remy finished, picking up a photo showing barrels being loaded into unmarked trucks, into the watershed. Violet pulled out more documents. The kickbacks weren't just about money. They were paying people to look the other way while they poisoned the groundwater. Maya grabbed my arm. "Elise, this is way bigger than revenge now." "I know." I turned to Violet. "Why are you showing us this?" "Because I have a conscience?" Violet laughed bitterly. "Because Earl promised he'd protect me, then threw me under the bus the moment the board started asking questions. Take your pick." My phone buzzed. Jerome again. I put it on speaker. "Earl's losing it," he said without preamble. "He just showed up at Mum's house, drunk, talking about evidence he needs to destroy." "Is Helen with him?" I asked. "No, she's at the family lawyer's office, but Earl's ransacking her house, looking for some kind of backup drive." I looked at Violet. "What backup drive?" She went pale. "The one with all the disposal records? Earl kept it at Helen's house because he thought no one would look there." "Jerome," I said quickly, "don't let him leave. We're coming over." 20 minutes later, we pulled up to Helen's mansion. Earl's car was parked crookedly in the circular driveway, driver's door still open. "Stay here," I told Maya and Violet. "Remy, call this number." I handed her a card. "It's for an environmental crimes investigator. Tell him everything." Inside, the house was a disaster. Papers everywhere, drawers pulled out, furniture overturned. I followed the sounds of destruction to Helen's study. Earl stood at her desk, wild-eyed, pulling books from shelves. "Looking for this?" I held up a small black drive. He spun around. "How did you—" "Helen gave it to me an hour ago, right after she found out you've been stealing from the family trust." "You bitch!" He stepped toward me. "You've ruined everything." "No, Earl, you did that yourself. Every time you cut corners, every time you chose profit over safety." I backed toward the door. "Did you think no one would notice the cancer clusters near the dump sites?" His face contorted. "You don't understand. The company was going to shut down our division. People would have lost jobs." "So you poisoned them instead?" He lunged for me, but Jerome appeared in the doorway, blocking his path. "It's over, brother," Jerome said quietly. "The investigators are already at the facility." Earl's legs gave out. He slumped against the desk. "Mum will fix this. She always fixes everything." "Not this time." Helen's voice cut through the room. She stood in the doorway, looking every bit her age. "I've spent decades cleaning up your messes, Earl. Making excuses, believing your lies. No more. Mum, please." "The family lawyers are cooperating with the investigation." Helen's voice was ice. "You're on your own." Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. "That'll be the Environmental Crimes Unit," I said. "Violet's already given them her statement." Earl's head snapped up. "Violet? She wouldn't—" "She did. Along with proof of every illegal dump, every falsified report, every bribe." I held up my phone. showing him Violet's email. "Game over, Earl." The sirens stopped outside. Car doors slammed. "You know what's funny?" I moved toward the door. "If you hadn't treated me like I was nothing, just some trophy wife playing with computers, you might have noticed I was documenting everything. Every suspicious transaction, every late-night meeting, every unexplained expense. Why?" He looked broken, defeated. "Why did you do this?" "Because you made me invisible. And invisible people see everything." Footsteps thundered up the stairs. Officers filled the doorway, weapons drawn. "Earl Mills?" One stepped forward. "You're under arrest for environmental violations, corporate fraud, and criminal conspiracy." As they led him away in handcuffs, Helen touched my arm. "The family name," she started. "We'll survive," I finished, "but only if you do the right thing now. Tell them everything you know." Outside, Maya hugged me tight as Earl was placed in a police car. Violet sat in another vehicle, giving her official statement. Remy was already on the phone with lawyers. "What happens now?" Maya asked. I watched the police cars pull away, their lights painting the mansion's facade in red and blue. "Now?" I smiled grimly. "Now we make sure every victim of Earl's toxic dumping gets justice, and we do it legally, publicly, and completely." My phone buzzed one last time. A news alert. Earl's arrest was already breaking. The headline read, "Pharmaceutical executive arrested in major environmental crimes investigation." The truth, like poison, always rises to the surface eventually. The news vans had been camped outside my penthouse for 3 days when Maya finally dropped her bombshell. "I knew about Violet 6 months ago," she said, staring into her wine glass. We sat on my balcony, watching the sunset paint the city gold. "I saw them together at the Riverside Hotel." I set down my glass slowly. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I thought you knew." Maya's voice cracked. "I thought... God, Elise, I thought you were okay with it. Like Mum was with Dad." The air left my lungs. "What are you talking about? You never knew about Dad either, did you?" Maya looked up, tears in her eyes. "The other family he had. The reason he lost everything?" My hands started shaking. "Maya, he had another wife, 2 kids, a whole separate life funded by his company's money." She pulled out her phone, showing me old photos I'd never seen. Mum knew. She helped him hide it because of family image. Sound familiar? I stared at the images. My father with another family, smiling, happy. The timestamp showed these were taken during the years he told us he was travelling for work. "How long have you known?" "Since the funeral." Maya wiped her eyes. His other wife showed up. Mum paid her off to leave quietly, just like Helen would have done with Violet if she'd had the chance. "That's why you've been so supportive of my revenge plan," I whispered. "You weren't just helping me. I was breaking the cycle." Maya reached for my hand. "What Earl did to you, what Dad did to Mum, it's the same pattern. Powerful men enabling wives, hidden crimes. I couldn't watch it happen again." My phone buzzed. Remy calling. "Turn on the news," she said when I answered. "Earl's making a statement." I flipped on the TV. Earl stood outside the courthouse, Helen conspicuously absent. "I accept full responsibility for my actions," he read from a prepared statement. "The environmental violations were my doing alone. No other family members were involved." "He's falling on his sword," Maya observed. "No," I corrected. "He's protecting Helen. And the family money." "There's more," Remy said. "Jerome just sent me something interesting. Apparently, Earl wasn't the first Mills to hide toxic waste. Their father did the same thing 20 years ago." Maya grabbed my arm. "Just like our dad's pattern. It's generational," I realised. The crimes, the cover-ups, the enabling. The doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I saw Helen. "Let her in," Maya suggested. "Maybe it's time to break another cycle." Helen looked smaller somehow, her designer suit wrinkled, her gold watch missing. "Earl signed a confession," she announced without preamble. "He's taking a plea deal." I saw. I gestured to the TV. "Still trying to protect the family name?" "Trying to protect you, actually." Helen pulled out an envelope. "These are records of every illegal disposal site, dating back to my husband's time as CEO. Earl was just continuing the family tradition." Maya and I exchanged looks. "Why are you showing us this?" I asked. Because I'm tired. Helen sank onto my sofa. Tired of covering up, of enabling, of watching history repeat itself. Your father was the same way, Elise, always putting image above truth. I froze. You knew my father? We served on charity boards together. I knew about his other family, just like he knew about my husband's environmental violations. She laughed bitterly. We all kept each other's secrets, until now. My phone buzzed again. Jerome. The investigators found more dumps, he reported. Decades worth. Dad's old business partners are already lawyering up. Good, Helen said loudly, surprising us all. Let it all come out. I'm done protecting dead men's crimes. After she left, Maya and I sat in silence, processing. You know what this means, Maya finally said. All those families near the dump sites. They can finally get justice for generations of damage. It's not just about Earl anymore, I agreed. It's about breaking a pattern that goes back decades. My phone lit up with a text from Remy. Victims' families are organising a class action. They want you to testify. Will you do it? Maya asked. I walked to the window, watching Helen's car pull away. In the fading light, I could see news vans still camped outside, waiting for the next development in the story. Yes, I decided. But not just about Earl, about all of it. Every corrupt deal, every covered-up crime, every enabling spouse. It's time to expose the whole system. Maya hugged me from behind. Dad would have hated this. Good. I turned to face her. Because we're not invisible anymore, and neither are their victims. My phone buzzed one final time that evening. A message from Violet. More whistleblowers coming forward. This is bigger than we thought. I smiled. Sometimes revenge doesn't just expose one person's crimes. Sometimes it breaks open decades of secrets, like a dam finally giving way to the truth. The courtroom fell silent as I took the stand. Earl sat at the defense table, unshaven and hollow-eyed in his prison jumpsuit. Helen wasn't present. She'd chosen to watch the proceedings via closed-circuit TV from her lawyer's office. Please state your name for the record, the prosecutor began. Elise Montgomery Mills. My voice carried clear and strong. And what was your relationship to the defendant? I was his wife and his unwitting accomplice. Earl's head snapped up at that last part. His lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Could you elaborate on that statement? I leaned into the microphone. My design firm handled all the company's environmental compliance reports. Earl had me create documentation showing proper waste disposal. What I didn't know was that those reports were covering up illegal dumping. When did you become aware of the illegal activities? When Violet came forward. I glanced at Earl. She had proof that Earl was falsifying disposal records and bribing officials, but it went deeper than that. It was a generational pattern of corporate corruption. The prosecutor displayed my carefully archived documents on the courtroom screen. These financial records, she indicated, show transfers dating back 20 years. Can you explain their significance? They prove that Earl's father established the illegal disposal system, and Earl continued it. The money trail connects 3 generations of corporate executives to environmental crimes. Earl's lawyer stood. Objection. This testimony goes beyond the scope of the current charges. Your Honour, the prosecutor countered, this establishes pattern and intent. Overruled. The judge nodded for me to continue. I detailed everything. The fake contracts, the kickbacks, the covered-up health impacts on local communities. With each revelation, Earl seemed to shrink further into himself. During a brief recess, Maya found me in the hallway. You're destroying them, she whispered. The Mills family will never recover from this. Good. I took a sip of water. How's Helen holding up? Breaking down. Jerome says she's talking about selling the mansion, moving abroad. My phone buzzed. Remy with an update. More victims coming forward. 3 new cancer clusters identified near dump sites. Back in the courtroom, Earl's lawyer tried to paint me as a vengeful ex-wife during cross-examination. Isn't it true that you planned this exposure as revenge for your husband's infidelity? No. I met Earl's gaze. I planned it as justice for hundreds of families who were poisoned while your client got rich. But you didn't report these activities when you first suspected them? I needed proof. Ironically, Earl's arrogance provided that. He never thought his trophy wife would understand enough to catch him. The lawyer changed tactics. You benefited from Mr. Mill's income during your marriage, did you not? My design firm earned 3 times what Earl did. I funded our lifestyle. He just took credit for it. A murmur ran through the courtroom. Earl's face flushed red. No further questions, his lawyer muttered. The prosecutor rose for redirect. One final question, Mrs. Montgomery Mills. What motivated you to come forward now? I took a deep breath. Because silence is complicity. Helen enabled her husband's crimes. My mother enabled my father's double life. I refused to be another wife protecting another corrupt man. After I stepped down, Violet took the stand. She provided detailed testimony about the disposal operations, complete with dates, locations, and names. Earl watched her with a mixture of hatred and fear. During the afternoon break, Jerome caught me in the corridor. They're offering Earl a deal, he said quietly. 20 years if he testifies against Dad's old business partners. Will he take it? Helen's pushing for it. She wants to salvage whatever's left of the family legacy. My phone lit up with a news alert. Pharmaceutical scandal widens. Multiple executives implicated in decades-long environmental cover-up. Maya appeared with coffee. You okay? Better than okay. I showed her the alert. The truth is finally coming out. All of it. Earl's going to prison, she mused. Helen's running away. The Mills empire is crumbling. Is this how you imagined your revenge would end? This isn't about revenge anymore. I watched Earl being led back to the courtroom in handcuffs. It's about justice. For every family that lost someone to cancer. For every community whose water was poisoned. For every woman who was told to stay quiet and look pretty. The bailiff called us back in. As I took my seat, Earl caught my eye one last time. I saw no anger there now, only defeat. He finally understood. His real crime wasn't the dumping or the fraud or even the affairs. It was underestimating me. The judge entered and Earl rose to hear his fate. In the gallery behind me, I felt Maya squeeze my hand. Whatever the sentence, we'd already won. The truth was out, the pattern was broken, and the invisible had finally been seen. The autumn wind whipped around my ankles as I stood outside Helen's mansion, watching the movers load the last of her furniture. She'd finally decided to sell, not just the house, but everything connected to her old life. This is where it all started, Helen said, appearing beside me. Every corrupt deal, every covered-up crime, right here in this house. And now it's becoming a treatment centre. She handed me the paperwork. For cancer patients affected by the dumping. The sale proceeds will fund it. My phone buzzed. Maya sending updates from Earl's sentencing. 25 years, I read aloud. No possibility of early release. Helen nodded slowly. Jerome testified against him in the end. His own brother. Truth has a way of turning families inside out. Speaking of truth, Helen pulled an envelope from her designer bag. These belong to your father. I found them in my husband's old files. Inside were photos, letters, documents, evidence of my father's double life that Helen's husband had used as leverage. Why did you keep these? Insurance. Helen's voice was tired. We all kept dirt on each other, like mutually assured destruction. My phone lit up again, Remy calling. The victims' compensation fund is set, she reported. The Mills family fortune will be divided among affected families. Helen signed off this morning. I looked at Helen. You're really giving it all away? Money built on poison isn't worth keeping. She straightened her shoulders. Besides, I'm done enabling corrupt men. A sleek black car pulled up. Jerome stepped out. The prosecutors want to talk to us again, he said. More of Dad's old partners are willing to deal. Helen touched my arm. Will you come? There are things they need to hear from you too. I hesitated. Haven't we exposed enough? You started this, Jerome reminded me. Might as well finish it. Inside the prosecutor's office, Violet was already waiting with Maya. On the conference table lay stacks of new evidence, decades of corporate crimes exposed by Earl's conviction. Ready to bring down the whole system? Maya asked. I sat down, spreading out my own files. Let's end this. All of it. All. For hours we mapped out connections, named names, exposed every dark secret the Mills empire had buried. Helen filled in historical gaps, Jerome provided financial details, and Violet connected modern players. My phone buzzed constantly. Media requests, victim advocacy groups, environmental lawyers. Everyone wanted the full story. "You know what happens when this goes public," Helen warned. "Every powerful family in town will be implicated." Good. I pulled up the draft of my testimony. Let them fall. Maya touched my shoulder. "Dad's other family. Should we tell them?" "They deserve to know." I looked at the old photos Helen had given me. Everyone deserves the truth. The prosecutor entered with fresh coffee. "Ready to make history?" "Actually," I opened my laptop. "I'm ready to tell a story about invisible wives who saw everything, about corrupt men who thought money could bury truth, about poison that seeped into not just water, but whole generations." "You're not just telling a story," Helen said quietly. "You're changing the ending." My phone lit up with a text from Remy. "Treatment centre plans approved. Construction starts next month." Outside the window, the city sprawled beneath gathering storm clouds. Somewhere out there, Earl sat in his prison cell. His father's business partners sweated in their mansions. Victims' families finally had answers. "There's one more thing," Helen said. She placed her signature gold watch on the table. "This was given to me when I agreed to keep my husband's secrets. I don't want it anymore." I pushed it back to her. "Keep it, as a reminder of why we're doing this." "No!" She stood, gathering her things. "I don't need reminders anymore. None of us do." The prosecutor returned with more files. Rain began to patter against the windows. We had hours of work ahead, years of secrets to unravel, countless lives to impact. Maya squeezed my hand. "Still glad you didn't just divorce him quietly?" I thought about Earl's dismissive smirk, Helen's condescending advice, all those years of being invisible while poison spread through communities. "Some things," I said, opening another file, "are bigger than revenge. Sometimes you have to burn down the whole corrupt forest to let truth grow." Thunder rolled outside as we began another round of testimonies. The storm was here, and with it, justice. Not just for me, not just for Earl's victims, but for every person who'd ever been told to stay quiet and look pretty while poison spread through their lives. The truth, like water, always finds its way to the surface, and this time it would wash everything clean.